Welcome to the Verdin Verdict Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verdin. We got more LSU practice highlights for you. Here we go. Let's get right into it. We started things off with the one-on-ones once again. You got Chris Hilton right here getting one on Sage Ryan. Moving into the next reps, you're going to have Landon Abita versus J.K. Johnson. You've been seeing this matchup a little bit. They've been pairing these two together. I don't know if it's a style thing. I don't know if that's what J.K. is going to be guarding similarly on the field potentially. Then next, you got Trudez Green and Deshaun Spears. One thing about Trudez, man, he's been a matchup nightmare all camp. I'm sure he'll be that his whole career. He doesn't come down with this one here. Good play by Deshaun Spears. But it's going to be hard to have that result come pretty often. Aaron Anderson and Major Burns going one-on-one. Aaron with a short route, but really quick, really shifty. That's kind of what we expected from him. He's got that potential to be able to take over a route. Kyle Parker and PJ right here. Here goes Kyle getting some distance, but can't come down with it. Now, I mean, look, it might be a bad ball, might be good D, who knows. Kyle and Billiot stepping up. He's going against Jair Brown, playing against him, getting some reps in. Coaches weren't too happy about Jair going and getting Kylan to the ground. They said, stand up, don't go down on him. You can kind of hear it here in the background. Next up, we got Pimpton versus Austin Osbury. And with Matt Markaway leaving LSU, you can expect Kamorian Pimpton to have a lot of involvement in this offense. I think he could even be the tight end 2 for the entirety of that season. Javen Nicholas versus Kylan Jackson. And this one, a little bit overthrown. Javen's been having a pretty good camp, though. Someone else has been having a good camp, Jelani Watkins, and he's going to take on Michael Turner right here on this rep. We're kind of zooming in on Cortez Hankton, teaching Kylan Billiot some things. But there's Jelani looking against Michael. Michael has an opportunity to pick that thing off. Good defense in that situation. Here we go again with Kyron and Ashton Stamps. We didn't film the first rep with them because we were just walking in, but Ashton Stamps deflected one over Kyron. Now here we go with the rematch, and that's good defense. I'm not going to lie, Kyron's a phenomenal player, but shout out to Ashton because he stayed very, very close with him. And then you got Mason Taylor going up against Joel Rogers, and Mason Taylor goes snag one over the coverage. What a tough catch. Gets banged up a little bit afterwards, but he's all right. He got up. He's a big guy. You got C.J. Daniels going up against Juwan Johnson right here. It's going to be, interesting to see how the young buck kind of gets adjusted to these type of situations. You see CJ getting the rep right here. Look at all the laundry on the field, though. All them penalties. And DB's kind of got to relax a little bit. Chris Hilton on Sage again. See if Sage can get a shake back. Chris is just so speedy, though. He creates a lot of separation, a little tiny overthrown ball. But I think that's something they're going to be able to dial in and kind of fix. You see Ashton Stamps getting some tutelage here in the middle of the reps. Landon Abita and JK go right back. And there goes Landon getting separation. Not sure if JK got the flag or if there was a push off or what that laundry was about. Next rep, though, Trudez Green, Jordan Gilbert. Trudez finally gets that one in. And I think that, like I said, this guy's going to be very hard to guard, very hard to keep wraps on him. Aaron Anderson and Major Burns going for the second time. You see the separation get created right here, and that's what Aaron Anderson brings to the table. He can lose you in the short field. I feel like he's a really quick, speedy guy. Another quick, speedy guy, Kyle Parker, taking on Zy Alexander. Look at Zy. Bow! Get that shit out of here. Deflection. A little swat from our guy Zy. Looking healthy, looking good. Like I said, keep tabs on Zy Alexander because he could be into the starting role if he's healthier than we expect. Kylan Billiot taking on Jair Brown. Look at Kylan with the tip catch. Okay, young buck. You got your eyes on the ball, eyes on the prize, if you will. He's had some decent reps. Pimpton and Deshaun again. Here we go. Can Deshaun make a good play? Yes, he can. And Deshaun, young buck, he might be able to take over some of these reps here. I think he's been performing really well. I think he's been doing pretty good. Here's Javen Nicholas versus Kylan right here. Bow! What a catch in the pocket. I think Javen Nicholas is going to be a lot more than just a special teams player here. You could eventually see the field potentially. Another guy that could, Jelani Watkins, taking on Wallace Foster, couldn't come down with it, but it doesn't summarize how Jelani's impact has been. It's been really good. Another interesting move here. Cortez Hankton is telling Kylan, step up, go get you a rep with Ashton. Go get you a rep with CB1. Let's see what you're made of, young guy. Here goes Kylan, gets off quick, gets inside, and then gets the ball. So a little bit of a confidence boost for the young guy. And lastly, we're going to end this one off with Trudez Green and Juwan Johnson. This one came really damn close. We almost got ran over, but hey, head on a swivel, baby. That's what we got to do. Moving into the offensive reps. You see Garrett Nussmeier kind of going through his reads, going through his progression, looking at the scout team. You find Shelton Sampson and Shelton Sampson, I think, could have one of these seasons where he gets incorporated more than he has in the past. In the past, you've seen him get a couple of opportunities, couldn't come down with them, but it's looking like they're trying to find a way to implement him into the scheme here. You see they find him again on that little curl route that they've kind of been practicing. Next one, got a CJ right here. Ref's blocking it, nice in the way, but CJ Daniels comes down with a pretty good sideline grab. I think CJ is going to be, a big weapon. And one of the things I've kind of been noticing about this LSU offense is they're playing short field a lot. And yeah, it's camp. You don't got much defense. You don't got much coverage, so to speak. But they've been keeping things kind of short field. Chris Hilton, another one of those guys you've seen get active into not necessarily the screen pass type game, but just the short field, slant, drag routes. Here goes Kyle Parker getting one. He's kind of had a little bit of a slow start to fall camp, Mr. Kyle, but I think he'll be able to shake this up a little bit. You kind of move into the twos here, and one thing that did stand out to me, the first running back that came out with the quote-unquote twos after Nussmeier was A.J. Swan, but it could be a mixture of the threes just because you see Tredez in motion right here, and then here's Kylan Billiot. So they could have came out with the threes first instead of the twos. You see Kylan getting open on a little bit of an out. It's not a bad route, and I think that you could potentially see some things like this down the future. I mean, will he start? Of course. I mean, you got a lot of talent. I don't think he's going to get wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. Of course not, but think that he'll be able to poke his head into some reps, kind of get open a little bit. Here you see Ricky Collins throw to Kyron Lacey, and I feel like that is indicative of Ricky potentially being quarterback 2. You're putting your starters out there with him, trying to get them eased into that, so to speak. And you see Mason Taylor here in a little bit of an interesting formation, lining up in the backfield to provide like extra blocking. And hey, if you can block and you can hold the pocket long enough, Garrett Nussmeier will let one rip just like that. That was a really good throw. Let's move into the offensive line, just give you a little bit of a depth update. You see Miles Frazier going up against Bo Bordelon right here, and then moving in, you got Ori Williams. Let me tell you something about Big Ori. 6'8", 330 pounds. If something happens and you've got to facilitate and substitute and put some depth in there, Ori Williams is going to be a guy that you're probably going to look at. Yeah, he's a freshman. Yeah, he's raw. Yeah, he's got to fix some things, but that size is going to be something that is going to be hard to ignore. It's going to be very difficult to keep him off the field if he can somehow, some way fix the footwork, somehow, some way adjust to this level. I feel like he didn't have a bad rep right here. It's going to be one of those things you're going to have to keep an eye on, though. I feel like that size, like I said, is going to be very, very, very intimidating for a lot of matchups. And then, I mean, you got a great offensive line scheme right now. Just keep him under, a Garrett Dellinger, keep him under a guy, potentially even a Will Campbell. Let him learn from them. Let him learn some things. Let him get cut. Let him get, that raw talent out in the open. Then here you see Weston. 6'6". I feel like this is a little bit of Weston Davis is a little bit of another one of those examples where the size could benefit the line in its entirety. You don't want to undersize linemen. You don't want a lineman just simply relying on strength. You want that length. You want to be able to try to provide a mismatch for guys. Like when you're playing USC, if they don't have the length to be able to go over it, it's going to be a long day. Here you see Zy Alexander on the field. They're kind of running, I'm not going to say the backups, but this is not any starters out here. You got guys like Michael Turner. You got guys like Zy Alexander, Joel Rogers. Right here you see J.K. Johnson. One thing I will note is that J.K. has been working with P.J. in a bunch of different sets. And I mean, I've found that P.J. has had a pretty good camp. So by default, I'd wonder if P.J. and J.K. are going to see their names thrown in the hat here. Potentially if any cornerback matchups need to be edited, patched, if you will. You got JK on the end as well. Here you see him kind of, I don't know if this is run block schemes or if they're just shuffling and trying to, simulate something. Another, key piece you're going to have to watch, Deshaun Spears. He's been lights out. You saw him in the one-on-ones. You saw what he's capable of. You saw what he brings to the table. And I think that's going to be something you're going to have to keep an eye on as well. If the DBs do get into a situation where they need to change something up, they might have some pieces to be able to shuffle to, unlike last year, years prior. I'm not saying you didn't have talent. I'm not saying you didn't have rotations or backup plans or this, that, and the third. But what I am saying is if you don't trust or rely on Ashton Sampson, Sage Ryan, you could potentially move into a piece where you utilize J.K. Johnson. Now, here's the thing about P.J. Woodland. Here's the thing about maybe even a Toviano, Deshaun Spears, guys like this. When they're younger, when they're inexperienced, when they're in that situation, when they're not championship level yet, like Brian Kelly said, you're going to have your good with your bad. You're going to have a lot of good moments, but you're also going to have some bad moments. Those bad moments, we use the analogy all the time. DB is a rough spot. 55 perfect snaps, and on that 56th play, you have one bad moment, happens to be a game-winning touchdown, game's over. Guess what? only going to remember that last play. Most fans, at least, are going to have that philosophy. Most people are only going to remember that game-winning moment that you couldn't get it done in. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's the reality of the situation. So with that being said, having all of these names to rely on, having all these names to potentially test out, whether they be young, whether they be inexperienced, so have, whatever the excuse may be, they could get into a situation where you might find a diamond in the rough. You might find someone that you could be able to utilize if a situation like that does happen. I mean, I'm not saying if you have one bad play to pull out your entire lineup and start looking at the depth chart and going back to the drawing board. What I am saying, though, is if that happens, they're in a little bit of a better spot than they used to be, just because you've got a couple more names you can pull from comparatively last year, where what you have is what you have and you can't throw anybody else out there and there's freshmen all over the place and bleh. Now you can look to a Sage Ryan, you can look to an Ashton Stamps, as Alexander, J.K. Johnson. These are not your just pure young green guys. Do you have some of them? Of course. You got PJ, you got Deshaun, you got a couple other pieces where you could throw them out there. Not saying you don't want to have them, not saying you do, but you got them. You have a backup / fallback option, and I think Corey Raymond, he likes the pieces. He likes what he's seen from them. I like what I've seen from them as well. And I think just keep putting them in these situations, keep putting them against the ones, the Kyron Lacey's, the Chris Hiltons, keep putting them against that NFL-esque like talent. And let's see how they can grow. Let's see what kind of, potential we really have with this room. I think this is going to be a good forecasting year. Week 1 against USC is going to be a good little, litmus test for LSU to see where this defense is, see what they got to do, see what they got to shape up. And I think, by week 6, when Ole Miss comes to town, you've got a different beast on your hands. The defense is going to be a well-oiled machine. The DBs are going to be in a cream crop shape. You might be able to have your best, most optimized lineup available, but you're going to have to just keep, assessing and keep readjusting and just put the best product on the field. It might be confusing at times, like if a Sage Ryan gets in a cornerback position, a lot of people are wondering what's going on. Guess what? Might be one of those players that can utilize that can play safety, that can play corner, that can be a hybrid player who provide some relief, who, you don't have to just keep changing things up. Maybe you plug and play him in a couple of spots and he becomes, a bright spot, a shining star, an MVP, so to speak, of the defense. You never know. I'm really interested to see what they do, though, what kind of rotations they have, what kind of lineups they have, when do they implement them, when do they change them, when do they go back to the drawing board potentially. There's a lot of things on the table here for LSU. We got more practice coverage coming for you. I believe our next highlight video will be on Friday. We're going live to kind of break it down. We're going to give you those updates that we've been giving you every Monday, every Wednesday, every Friday. And hit the subscribe button. Keep informed on this LSU football news. Stick around, join the Verdin Verdict community, man. I appreciate everybody for the support recently, and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep building brick by brick, baby. Thanks for the support. Y'all have a good one.